A Friday edition of Sports Take here on Birds 365. You recognize him. That would be Derek Gunn. Sitting next to him today, at least as per Steve Ike on the stream, Rob Ellis is aged. What the hell happened to his hair? And the unbelievable capabilities to be able to get this kind of facial hair in 24 hours is outstanding. Good job, Robbie.
Oh, man. I told you, man, this chat is off the charts, man. Hey, just again to remind everybody, send your videos, pictures in this weekend. It's sportstake@gmail.com. Sportstake@gmail.com. I can't wait to see some of these videos next week. So you people have all week to get it in. Sportstake@gmail. It's Sportstake Jacob. Wait, Sportstake Jacob at Gmail. There we go.
It is. Sportstake Jacob
at gmail.com. Get those videos in. I cannot wait to see some of the stuff. You people got it coming. You've been ripping us for the last year. It's our terms now.
That sounds like fun. I will be checking it out if you guys get some decent responses. They're funny. I like the guys on your stream here. Little cynicism about Rob Ellis aging before your very eyes. Yeah, that is the case. But we'll see if you come up big and able to poke a little fun at yourself on the Gmail with these guys come next week. All right. Hoping to hear from Keith Pompey about the NBA last night. Everyone knew that Victor Wembanyama was going to be the number one player in the draft. He's the most hyped guy. There he is. All right. He's ready to join. It says Keith Pompey. He looks like he's out ready to hang with the boys in the hood. Where are you streaming from, Pompey?
Well, you know what? It's funny because like when I saw that you guys wanted me to come on the show, I literally just dropped my daughter off at Paul VI High School.
Oh, there you go.
So she could do some volleyball lessons. So
very nice.
So look at you, man. That's what modern technology can do for us. Years ago, we wouldn't be able to join people's shows anywhere on the planet. Now we can be anywhere. High schools, shopping at a mall. I've been shopping at a mall, pushing the cart and joined people's shows before, man. So modern technology has enhanced our ability to do a lot of great things, man.
Well, I apologize, though, about this because I was like, oh, my God, where can I drive to? Where can I drive to? Where can I drive to?
That looks good.
No, man. Right. Look, I asked you at the last minute, and I apologize for doing that. And I just appreciate you giving us the time, man. I really do.
Oh, anytime. I love coming on the show.
Appreciate you.
Just didn't recognize the background at Poole VI, which I should because my daughter was a hoop player for Cherokee over in Malton. So I've spent hours in the Poole VI gym. I just don't recognize the wall in the background. All right. So you were busy last night and your daughter's got you out running around today. The Sixers did not acquire a second-round pick. Were they not for sale, Keith Pompey? I thought for sure they were going to get one because if Josh Harris says, all right, here's the money, go get yourself somebody. They leaked out the video of the spots in the draft. They thought they could actually acquire somebody. They didn't get any. What the hell happened?
Yeah, that's, it's crazy that they, because it's one of those things where it's letting you know that there was a lot of second round picks to be acquired, that they could have acquired. A lot of things. It's funny. I was talking to an executive, and not with the Sixers, but with a team. And I said, do you think the Sixers will be able to get one? And he said, Keith, it's probably going to be competitive because there's going to be a lot of teams that have the money right now, and there's going to be a lot of spots to take. So it's going to be up to how, like, the highest bidder, so to speak. But, I guess it comes down to a thing like I would hate to speak because Daryl didn't speak yet. So it's one of those things where you look at it like, okay, well, let's see if this guy is sliding. Maybe we can hold off and see if he goes, and then you can take it from there. But I'm with you, Jody. I was expecting them to make a splash. I know they didn't have any draft picks, but to at least, pay the $2 or $3 million it would take to get someone and have that person be, a end of the rotation or, just someone who can help them out.
Okay, so since they didn't do anything, and you try to be as optimistic as you can, and we have to take that into consideration. But in all honesty, how do you perceive this team now? I mean, there's still time between now and the time to go to – but see, and as I said before the break you weren't on, I think people need to settle in. Now, this is my opinion, and I want to hear your expert opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
You're much closer to this team than I am. I think people need to settle in and come to the resolution that this team is going to be like this all season long. They may have a few ebbs and flows. They'll be good enough to get in the back door of the playoffs, but they're not going to be any better. They're not.
I agree 100% with you. Now, here's the thing about this team. The NBA, let's be honest, there are probably in the Eastern Conference, there's going to be 5 teams that are going to be a notch above everyone else. The 76ers are going to be in that group of 5, right? The question is, are they good enough to get out of the second round? You know, you look at it, you know, you always compare yourself to Boston. You see the moves that Boston are making. You see where, you know, you believe that the Milwaukee Bucks, they have a new coach, but they're also going to bring back players. They're going to do whatever they can to get these guys back. So you look at it and you see some changes that are being made around the 76ers. And like you said, it's the same team. And they may get some new role players, but they don't have a lot of money for these to be guys that you're saying, oh, we're going to get headlines, so to speak. You know what I mean? They're not going to be the top of the news. You know, they're not talking about that. So, yeah, I think the Sixers are going to be good. But I think that when people start talking about championship, I think it's a little bit of a stretch right now.
Yeah. All right, Keith, I saw your report leading up to yesterday's draft that there were a handful of teams in the NBA that had sincere interest in Tobias Harris, and that the deal could come down leading up to the draft, during the draft, something along those lines. Tobias Harris still here. Was it because the Sixers had too big a price tag on him? Was the interest that the other teams had just like, yeah, if you're going to give him to us, we'll take him off your hands and eat the cap money, but you're going to have to take our bad player back? Tobias Harris still here, didn't happen. As best you can tell, as per your sources and what you heard, why didn't the deal get done?
Basically, because of the 76ers price tag was too high. Really? I mean, it was extremely high. There were teams out there that really wanted Tobias. Like, I mean, they wanted a veteran, you know, teams that saying, look, right now we're not a winning team, or, you know, we want to make the playoffs. We have a bunch of draft picks, but right now we're tired of doing this. We need to get a veteran guy in here. And they wanted Tobias, right? But they couldn't, like I talked to one guy, he said, Keith, we just couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford him. Like, we didn't have enough. And the reason why they didn't have enough is because what the Sixers wanted, they wanted, you know, a pick, of course, but they also wanted 2, like, not role players. They wanted 2, like, integral pieces to a team's, you know, to a team. And people weren't kind of willing to give that up. Like, that's why they were saying what they're asking for is outrageous. When you think back to last summer or 2 summers ago with Ben Simmons around the same time, it was one of those things where they wanted a team's top young stars and they wanted all their draft picks. So I'm not saying they wanted the same with Tobias, but what they wanted is they wanted like quality pieces. In addition to the quality pieces, they wanted a draft pick.
So Keith, when you posted that story about the potential of Tobias moving and several teams being out there, did you believe that the Sixers could get quality back in return for him? Or did you go in with the mindset of, if the Sixers just want to move out from under his cap number, they're going to have to take what they can get for Tobias Harris?
Yeah, I know what it is. When I was talking to people, I got to the point where what I took from it is the Sixers had no intention of trading Tobias Harris. Mm-hmm. Really, I got what it was. It was like one of those things. You ever hear, like, you hear this thing where they say people keep moving the goalposts back? Like, It's kind of like the team thinks that they're going to get a deal, but it's one of those things where then the Sixers say, well, we want this, we want this. But to me, it was one of those things where they knew that this team was not willing to give up something. Now, if they gave up what the Sixers asked for, then okay, well, yeah, you can have Tobias. Yeah, take him off of us. But I look at it right now that the 76ers had no intentions of trading them because they don't know what James is going to do. And of all the assets that the 76ers have, Tobias Harris is the only one that they're willing to move, right? They're not willing to move Maxey. They're not willing to move Joel Embiid. So if right now, if you trade Tobias, and what you're going to get is, because teams are looking at him as a fourth option, you're probably going to get back what you get for a fourth option, right?
Yep.
So if you get rid of him now, and then you get rid of James Harden, then all of a sudden, they're no longer in that group of five. So I think what the Sixers were doing is they were like, hey, if you can give us something that's going to make us better, even if we lose James, yeah, we'll do that. But nah, we're not trading them. And now they entertained the phone conversation, but nah, they weren't trying to trade Tobias.
All right. So here's the next natural step you got to take in the line of thought. If the Sixers were putting an unachievable price on Tobias, they didn't really want to trade him. Is it more because they think they're getting Harden back, and they think the same group can, for some reason, under a new coach, Nick Nurse is going to come in and cure all ills, and all of a sudden they're going to be able to get past a Milwaukee and a Boston? Or is it the fact that they're thinking about letting Harden walk out the door, and if Tobias is back on a last year of the deal, he leaves at the end of the season, clear a lot of cap. D-Gun and I were running this down earlier. We'd both be okay with kind of a bridge year. Take your shot without Harden, let everybody play hard, win your 45 games and finish sixth in the East, but be the major player in free agency the year after. Is there any chance that the Sixers are thinking along those lines?
You know what? I think, I think both of those things have, those scenarios come up, right? But I also think like the real thing is with them is I think that, well, one is like they think that they were so close. They feel like, if they had a great fourth quarter in game 6, instead of the way it ended up, that they would have been in the Eastern Conference Finals. You look at Tobias Harris and you look at Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse likes Tobias Harris. He looks at Tobias being 6'8", 6'9", being like the type of guy that he had in Toronto that he had a lot of success with. And the thing is, when you look at a guy like a Pascal Siakam, right now you'll say, who's better? Is Tobias Harris better than Pascal Siakam? You'll say no. Pascal Siakam's a better player, 2-time All-Star, right? But 3 years ago, Tobias Harris was hands down the better player. But what happened is Nick Nurse developed him. So I think that you have that aspect. And also it's kind of like one of those things, Jody, where it's this, they feel like again, they feel like they were close. You have Nick Nurse in here now, and you don't want to give up Tobias until you know exactly what James Harden is going to do. Really, you don't. And another thing is Nick Nurse, think about it. He didn't hide from anything. When that introductory press conference came out, he was like, hey, we're going to talk about getting out of the second round. We're not, I know that's going to be the first thing in training camp. So you mean to tell me you get Nick Nurse up in here, and then all of a sudden he's taking this job knowing well that the last 2 coaches got fired because they couldn't get out of the second round. And you mean to tell me you don't know what James is going to do? And now you got rid of Tobias for some role players? Nah, like you understand what I'm saying? So I think that has a lot to do with it. The Sixers don't have a lot of options, man. So whatever they do, they got to make sure that this is 100% right.
What's your gut feeling? You think James is coming back? I'm still on the fence, and you and I have talked about this before with Rob Ellis. I'm all for telling James, hey, thank you for services. Good luck in future endeavors. Do you think he's coming back?
You know what? I'm on the fence too. Like I said, I told y'all a month ago, talking to everybody I spoke to, I was like, hey, I think James is going. Now I'm like, then a couple of days ago, I'm like, oh, he's coming back. But then to me, we know how it all goes. People get desperate, or the reels get, people say what they're not going to give you and what they're not going to do up until that 11th hour, right? Especially when there's competition. See, it was funny. Before, it was one of those things where James was going to get a max from both teams, whatever. Going to Houston sound great. you're going home, you're doing this, you're doing all that stuff, no state income tax, the whole thing, all that sound crazy. Then all of a sudden, the Sixers realize that, hey, well, guess what? We're not going to overpay for him. We're not going to hinder our short or long-term future, right? That's what they said. Then all of a sudden, Houston's like, we don't know if we want to give him more than 2 years. And then you have other things come out, like, players, like for instance, when Jalen Green went on the Paul George podcast, and you guys been in sports for a long time. And when you have one guy, a host, saying, hey, I don't know if he's a good fit for you, you're just sitting there like shaking your head like, I don't really want to say something. Sometimes it's like the guy is putting out a vibe for you. So with all that being said, I don't know, man. I'm with you, Derek D-Gun. I think like it's one of those things where, it's going to come down to whoever probably gives them the most money now. That's how I feel.
Wow. All right, Keith, need your take on the other things that happened around the NBA leading up to the draft last night. Biggest one that'll have an impact on the Sixers is the Boston Celtics deal, three-way deal with Memphis and Washington. The Celtics end up with Kristaps Porzingis, who, while I readily admit I'm not sure about the fit in Boston, but I know the player's talent, and 2 first-round draft picks for Marcus Smart. How do you get Porzingis and 2 ones for Marcus Smart, one of which they had the chance to use last night? They traded out of it, but a future first-round pick from Golden State coming next year as well. Man, the Celtics were better than the Sixers last year, and I think the Celtics got better, both short-term and long-term. Makes it that much tougher for the Sixers going into 23-24. Am I overstating what Porzingis can do for the Celtics?
You're not. And the reason being is like when we look at Porzingis, right? And let's spit it out there, right? We look at him, he might be one of the biggest disappointments in the league, like the way his career has panned out. Like, and what I mean by that, everybody talked about the Sixers messed up because they didn't draft him, right? They still should have drafted. But the thing is, he went from being an all-star in New York. He had the injuries. He goes to Dallas. It doesn't work out there. He goes to Washington. They trade him to Boston. For the first time, he's not going to be a 1 or a first or a second option. He's going to be a 3rd or a 4th option. And when you have him, the thing is, so you look at it, it's kind of like saying Tobias Harris as a 4th option, right? You look at Porzingis as a 3rd option the same way, making a lot of money. But now what you can do is you can move Jason Tatum down to the 3. You can move at all the time because sometimes he plays the 4. Then you can have Jaylen Brown playing the 2. And then so Porzingis could be the 4 to 5. But then the thing that is, Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of the team.
Right.
But he wasn't a point guard, although he played point guard. Malcolm Brogdon is a solid player. So when you look at it, I feel like with Kristaps Porzingis shooting, what that's going to do is it's going to open up more things for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So that's what it is. You just got a big space setter. I mean, a space maker for this team. And when we look at it, you don't look at him as a guy that has to carry a team, a guy that has to beat you. He's just going to be a complementary player to them. So with that, I have to say that it's going to work out. Also, another thing is now Al Horford doesn't have to play as many minutes, right? Yep. So now you have a shooter, and then you have a defender in Robert Williams, and then you have Malcolm Brogdon, who's a better offensive player than Marcus Smart. And people forget Malcolm Brogdon is also a quality defender. So I like it for Boston. I mean, I know people in Philly don't, but I like it for Boston.
That's a big risk, though, when you look at Porzingis' history, man, and how many games he's missed over the latter part of his career. I mean, you're right. He'll give you 20 points, but you don't know how long you're going to have him, on a court, season in and season out. So if I'm listening to what you're saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you think this move? I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I said it yesterday. Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of this team. He was a verbal leader. He is a complete player on both ends of the court, plus an incredible passer as well. But you think this move is making Boston better without Smart?
You know what? I think that, here's the thing. Like, in a perfect world, do you want to keep Marcus Smart? Yes, you do. But I feel like the problem is when you looked at this Boston Celtics team, it reminded me of an AAU team with two McDonald's All-Americans on the team, and they really didn't get along, right? I mean, seriously, they would come down in the first half. It was, Jaylen Brown's time, and then the second half was Jason Tatum. But they never really had another offensive guy out there who you could really key on or like take the pressure off of them. I just feel like having him out there with them is going to free them up, and they're going to be able to play. Believe it or not, it's like his offense is the addition of his offense is just going to provide probably more balance. I do believe that. I think it is. And also, see, we got to understand something. Yes, Marcus Smart, losing him is you lose the heart and soul. But look at the coaching staff they're starting to get now. I mean, Sam Cassell, we saw what it was like for him with the Sixers. We saw how he got in guys' faces. He was the one that did stuff. He's a guy who's very well respected. They also got some other coaches. So I feel like that they picked up. I feel like, honestly, that the Boston Celtics are going to be better. I do. Because, see, people forget. What they did is, at the trade deadline, remember, they went out there and tried to get Mike Muscala, the guy who played for the Sixers, the big who could stretch the floor. They put him in there. He couldn't make any shots. They thought that he was going to help them and be able to free things up. Now they thought he was going to do it off the bench. Now they have Porzingis, who's bigger than him, who's a better shooter, and he's probably going to be the best 3-point shooter on the team. So, I think that's going to help him out, y'all. I really do. I think he's going to make them a better team.
Yeah, I think Keith just likes him because of his initials, KP. I think that's why he's a Porzingis guy. You mentioned players not necessarily getting along. So Jordan Poole becomes an ex-Golden State Warrior. Was it because he couldn't get along with Draymond Green without getting popped in the face? Was it because I'm not sure he could cover you, me, or D Gun and actually stop us, defensive sieve? Or was it, they gave him the big money and then thought better of it and said, listen, we can take Chris Paul. We're going to have to live with him for a year, figure out a way to make him work in the offense. But the year after that, his money's not guaranteed. We can move on, and we got years to go at $30 million plus for Poole. I'm sure it's a combination of the three. What do you think is the biggest reason Poole was dealt? Teammates, money, or defense?
I think I'm with you with the combination of the three. Now, the thing that I heard is, a lot of people were upset when Draymond hit him. But some people said that Jordan Poole, sometimes guys get that money and then all of a sudden they start thinking they have a higher opinion of themselves. And I feel like that he suffered a little bit of that, right, from what you hear. Now, again, I wasn't in the locker room. I wasn't around him a lot. But I'm just going by what other reporters have told me and people have told me that, right? But also, when you look at it, I also think that sometimes guys get paid. And I remember an executive told me this before. You got to be careful who you pay. Because some guys get paid, and what it is it elevates their game. Other guys get paid, and it kind of like impacts their game and negatively. Mm-hmm. I felt like with Jordan Poole, it impacted them a little bit negatively. I felt like he was a guy who was out there that when you looked at it, he really didn't make them much better. What he did is he felt like, I'm getting paid, so I need to take these shots. And sometimes he shot them out of the game. Think about the playoff games they lost, where you like, really? Jordan Poole got the last shot? You know what I mean? So when you do that, where you're paying him all this money, he doesn't know his role anymore, and the ego or whatever could get in the way a little bit. Sometimes sometimes you got to let it go. And then, but yeah, you get Chris Paul, and it is freeing money off the cap.
Yeah, but Keith, I don't get putting Chris Paul with Golden State because you're putting in Edsel with a lot of Ferraris, man. I mean, they love to get up and down the court in a hurry. That's not Chris Paul's game. I can't wait to see how that mesh or doesn't mesh. I mean, because both sides have to give in terms of their overall game to make him fit there.
Yeah, you know what? And it's funny too, like, because when that trade was made, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe something else is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because you know, the thing about it is, to us, I mean, to me, it was either we're going to trade him to the Clippers, or we're going to try to hope and pray the Lakers come get him, or we're going to waive him, right? And I'm wondering if Golden State was considering the same thing, because he's in the final year of his deal, right? The final year of his deal, and it's like you can cut him and he can go. Now again, I don't know what the deadline is for with the guarantees and all this and that, but you know, I just, you're right. I can't see him in the starting lineup with those two. Now, can he come off the bench for a little bit, and then you can have him in there, and then hope and pray somebody needs him, and then after the period comes where you can sign him, then you can go to the Lakers and say, look, what y'all going to give us? Or go to the Clippers, what are y'all going to give us? But yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't make a fit, but to me, it seemed more like they were just they just want to get Jordan Poole out of there.
All right, KP, last one. Opinion / info that you've gotten, people that you've talked to since last night. Sixers signed 3 undrafted free agents to split contracts and 1 to an Exhibit 10 deal, which I had to look up last. I didn't even know what the hell an Exhibit 10 deal was, which is less than a split contract. Okay, it means he's going to really have to show out when he shows up to even get a spot with the G League squad. Who do you think has got the best chance of making the team? Who do your sources tell you the Sixers were most excited about getting signed after he's passed over in the draft?
You know what? The one guy, the council guy from Arkansas, excuse me, I forgot his first name. I mean, right now, so I think it's Ricky Council.
Yes.
So he's exciting, right? He's really exciting. Athletic. He went to Wichita State, which has a phenomenal basketball program, in his own right. And then he transfers to, Arkansas. He's really athletic. Now, the one thing is the guy that is the wild card, and I don't think any of these guys are going to be guys that the Sixers are saying, okay, we're going to make you a rotation dude. But the wild card is the Marcus Bagley guy. But the thing about him is, he's a guy who only played 17 games in 3 years at Arizona State because of injuries. He played 2 games this year. He got injured, but then he got into a little social media rift with the coach, which doesn't go well, and ultimately led to him being no longer with the team. So to me, that's a guy that it looks like he's extremely athletic. He stays injury prone. What we're doing is, and what Exhibit 10 is one of those things is, what we're going to do is we're going to, if you're going to get a training camp invite, basically, right? But we're going to waive you. But if you basically play for our G League team, you'll make more money with our G League team than you would with any other G League team. Now, the one thing about that people need to know about the Sixers and the two-way contract, they have yet to have a guy sign a two-way contract and finish the season with the Sixers. Like, I'm talking about sign it in the beginning of the season or before the season and finish. Daryl Morey brings them in, they look at them, get a good look, and then they move on from them and bring in somebody else, right, on that two-way. So that's one of those things where, people have to, be conscious of, like, they're going to evaluate these guys to see what they can do, but they have yet to have a guy. They might have kept him in the system, kept him on the G League team afterwards, but they have yet to have a guy start the season on a two-way contract and finish the season still on that two-way contract.
Something to watch out for. Oh, and the Summer League will be here before we know it. Pompey be going out to Vegas. He won't be standing in front of a brick wall. He's be in front of slot machines the next time D-Gun gets him back here on Sports Take. Keith, thanks much. Appreciate your carving out a couple of minutes for us. We'll be following you on all your Sixer reporting in the Inquirer. Thanks for doing it with us this afternoon.
And thanks for having me, y'all. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
More than welcome, man. Thank you.
Keith Pompey of the Inquirer giving us the Sixer insight here on Sports Take. All right, he's Derek Gunn, in case you haven't figured it out. I'm not Rob Ellis. Rob Ellis will be back next week. Fear not. Who's somebody took a shot at me. Barbara Council, where is, and I think I recognize her name from Barbara Carroll. Man, she wants Rob back in the worst way. I don't know if she's got the hots for Rob or she just can't stand me. It's one of the two for sure. She's like, please tell me Rob will be back here on Monday. I'll tell you right now, Rob will be back here on Monday, so you don't have to.
Oh, man.
All right, Jody McDonald in for Rob Ellis with D-Gun. We are Sports Take. We'll come back, continue streaming right into your house.